Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the USS Valiant, watching the stars drift past through the main view screen. The heavy cruiser moved through space with the quiet hum of powerful engines, its hull gleaming under the distant light of nearby suns. For 3 months now, they had been patrolling the outer edge of human space, keeping watch for any threats that might come from the unknown regions beyond. The bridge was calm and peaceful. Lieutenant Amy Stevens sat at her tactical station, monitoring long-range sensors for any unusual activity. Her fingers moved across the control panel with practiced ease, checking star charts and updating patrol routes. Commander Bill Harris was down in engineering, making sure all systems ran perfectly. Sergeant Lisa Kane stood near the weapons console, ready for anything that might disturb their quiet patrol. Jake had been a starship captain for 12 years. He loved the peace of deep space, but he also knew that peace could end very quickly. The galaxy was full of alien species, and not all of them were friendly to humans. Some saw humanity as weak newcomers who did not deserve their place among the stars. Others wanted to take human worlds to themselves. The USS Valiant was one of the newest ships in the human fleet. It looked similar to older cruisers from the outside, but inside it carried technology that most aliens had never seen. Jake smiled when he thought about how other species viewed human ships. They thought humans used simple weapons and basic shields. They had no idea what the Valiant could really do. Amy looked up from her station. "Captain, I'm getting some readings on long-range sensors. Multiple ships approaching from Sector 7. Jake moved to stand behind her chair. "How many ships?" 12 contacts, sir. They're moving in a battle formation." Amy's voice stayed calm, but Jake could hear a hint of concern. Ship types matched Zephyrian Empire vessels. Jake nodded slowly. The Zephyrians were known throughout the galaxy as aggressive warriors who expanded their territory by conquering weaker species. They had been pushing closer to human space for months, testing human resolve and looking for signs of weakness. "What's their heading?" Jake asked. "Direct course for us, Captain. They'll reach us in about 20 minutes. Jake walked back to his captain's chair and pressed a button to open ship communications. "All hands, this is the captain. We have Zephyrian ships approaching our position. All crew to battle stations. This is not a drill." The bridge lights dimmed slightly as the ship switched to combat mode. Red alert signals flashed at every station. Throughout the Valiant, crew members moved quickly to their assigned positions. In engineering, Bill Harris checked the fusion core and power systems. In the weapons bay, Lisa Kane made sure all systems were ready for combat. Jake had encountered Zephyrians before during his career. They were tall, reptilian creatures with sharp teeth and cold, yellow eyes. They believed that strength was the only thing that mattered in the universe. To them, humans were just another weak species to be conquered or destroyed. "Captain, the Zephyrian fleet is sending a message," Amy reported. "Put on screen." The main view screen changed to show the interior of an alien bridge. A large Zephyrian warrior filled the screen, his scaled face twisted in a sneer. Battle scars marked his neck and arms. Behind him, other aliens worked at strange control panels. "Human vessel." The alien said in heavily accented English, "I am Warlord Kevvar of the Zephyrian Empire. You are trespassing in space that now belongs to us. Surrender your ship immediately, or we will take it by force." Jake stood up from his chair. "This is Captain Morrison of the USS Valiant. You are in human space, Warlord. We have no quarrel with the Zephyrian Empire, but we will defend our territory." Kevvar laughed, showing rows of sharp teeth. "Your territory? Humans are children playing with toys they do not understand. Your pathetic ship cannot stand against 12 Zephyrian warships. I suggest you reconsider your position," Jake said calmly. "Turn your ships around and leave human space peacefully." The warlord's eyes narrowed. "You dare give orders to a Zephyrian commander? We have studied your primitive weapons and weak shields. Your people will learn to fear the Empire's power." Jake remained standing, his hands behind his back. He had learned long ago that showing fear only encouraged bullies like Kevvar. "Last warning, Warlord. Leave our space now. Or what, human? Will you run crying to your mothers like all cowards do?" The other Zephyrians on the alien bridge made harsh laughing sounds. Perhaps we will keep your ship as a trophy. The crew can serve as slaves in our minds. Amy checked her tactical display. The 12 Zephyrian ships had spread out in an attack formation. Each one was heavily armed with plasma cannons and energy weapons. Their flagship was twice the size of the Valiant, with thick armor plating and powerful shields. "Captain," Amy whispered, "their weapons are charging. All 12 ships." Jake nodded but kept his eyes on the screen. "Warlord Kethvar, you're making a mistake. Human ships are not as helpless as you think." "We shall see, Captain Morrison. You have exactly 60 seconds to abandon your ship before we destroy it. Use that time to pray to whatever gods humans worship." The communication ended, and the screen returned to showing the approaching alien fleet. Jake sat back down in his captain's chair. Around him, his crew worked quietly at their stations. No one seemed afraid. They had all trained for this moment, and they trusted their ship and each other. "Amy, what's the status of their approach?" "Still coming straight at us, Captain. Formation suggests they plan to surround us and attack from all sides." Bill's voice came over the intercom from engineering. "Captain, all systems are running at full power. The fusion core is stable, and shields are at maximum strength." "Thank you, Bill." Jake pressed another button. "Lisa, are our weapons ready?" "All systems green, Captain. Targeting computers are online and tracking all 12 enemy ships." Jake smiled. The Zephyrians had no idea what they were about to face. Like so many other alien species, they looked at human ships and saw only what they expected to see. They saw primitive technology and weak defenses. They never bothered to look deeper or ask the right questions. In 30 seconds, they would learn the truth about human military technology. Jake almost felt sorry for them. Almost. The countdown had begun. The bridge of the USS Valiant hummed with quiet tension as the crew prepared for what seemed like an impossible fight. 12 enemy warships against one human cruiser should have been a massacre, but nobody on the bridge looked worried. They had confidence in their ship and their training. Amy Stevens kept her eyes on the tactical display, watching the Zephyrian fleet move closer. The alien ships formed a perfect attack pattern, designed to hit the Valiant from multiple angles at once. Their plasma cannons glowed with deadly energy, ready to tear through what they believed were primitive human defenses. "Captain, they're maintaining course and speed," Amy reported. "All 12 ships have weapons locked onto us." Jake nodded calmly. "Any response to our diplomatic channels?" "Negative, sir. They've cut off all communication, except for their ultimatum frequency." The main screen flickered, and Warlord Kethvar's scarred face appeared again. His yellow eyes burned with cruel amusement as he looked at the human bridge crew. Behind him, Zephyrian warriors prepared their weapon systems with eager anticipation. 30 seconds remain, Captain Morrison," the warlord said with mocking tone. "Have your crew gather their personal belongings? Perhaps they wish to record final messages to their families before they die." Jake stood up slowly, his hands clasped behind his back. His voice remained steady and professional. "Warlord, I'm offering you one final chance to avoid bloodshed. Turn your fleet around and leave human space. No one needs to die today." The Zephyrian commander threw back his head and laughed loudly. The sound was harsh and cruel, like metal scraping against stone. "Die? The only deaths today will be human deaths, Captain. We have 12 ships of the Empire's finest warriors. You have one outdated cruiser with toys for weapons. Our intelligence reports show human ships use primitive kinetic weapons." Another Zephyrian officer added from behind Kethvar. "Simple metal projectiles fired by chemical explosions. Such weapons cannot penetrate modern shields. Your armor is made of basic steel alloys." A third alien chimed in. "Our plasma cannons will melt through your hull like fire through paper." Jake almost smiled at their confidence. Human intelligence services had worked very hard to make sure aliens believed exactly what these Zephyrians were saying. Every time human ships fought in space, they were careful to only show their older, simpler weapons. The real capabilities of ships like the Valiant remained classified secrets. "You seem very sure of yourselves," Jake said. We are sure because we are superior, Kethvar replied. Zephyrians have conquered 47 star systems. We have destroyed hundreds of ships from dozens of species. Humans are just the latest weaklings to fall before our might. Amy checked her chronometer and held up her hand, showing Jake that only 15 seconds remained to the alien ultimatum. Around the bridge, other crew members made final preparations. Everyone knew their job, and everyone was ready. Warlord Kethvar, Jake said, you're about to make the biggest mistake in Zephyrian history. The alien's eyes narrowed dangerously. Brave words from a dead human. Perhaps we will mount your skull on the wall of my flagship as a trophy. Perhaps you should worry more about your own skull, Jake replied calmly. Kethvar's face twisted with rage. How dare you threaten a Zephyrian warlord? Your pathetic species will pay for such insults. When we conquer your worlds, we will make sure every human remembers the price of disrespecting the Empire. 10 seconds, Captain, Amy whispered. Jake sat back down in his captain's chair. He looked completely relaxed, as if he were attending a peaceful diplomatic meeting, instead of facing 12 enemy warships. His crew took their cue from him, working at their stations with calm professionalism. You know, Warlord, Jake said conversationally, in all your intelligence reports about human ships, did anyone mention our defensive capabilities? Kethvar frowned. Your shields are standard electromagnetic barriers, adequate for deflecting space debris and minor energy weapons, but useless against concentrated plasma fire. And our offensive systems? Kinetic projectile launchers with limited range and impact force. Obsolete technology that civilized species abandoned centuries ago. Jake nodded thoughtfully. Those reports are very detailed, very confident. Tell me, who provided that intelligence? Time's up. Kethvar snarled, ignoring the question. You had your chance to surrender, human. Now you will learn what happens to those who defy the Zephyrian Empire. The communication ended abruptly. On the tactical display, Amy could see energy signatures spiking across all 12 enemy ships as they prepared to open fire. The alien fleet had spread into a perfect attack formation, with the flagship directly ahead and smaller vessels positioned to catch the Valiant in a devastating crossfire. All stations report ready, Captain, Amy announced. Jake pressed a button on his chair. Bill, how are we looking down there? The engineer's voice came through clearly from deep in the ship. Fusion cores running smooth and steady, Captain. Power levels are at maximum, and all systems are operating perfectly. We're ready for whatever they want to throw at us. Lisa, weapon status? All weapon systems online and fully charged, Captain. Targeting computers have locked onto all 12 enemy vessels. I can engage any or all targets on your command. Jake looked around his bridge one more time. Amy sat ready at tactical, her hands steady on the controls. Other officers monitored communications, navigation, and ship systems. Everyone looked calm and professional. Exactly as they should. Amy, raise shields to full power and prepare evasive maneuvers, Jake ordered. Shields at maximum, Captain. Evasive patterns loaded and ready. Lisa, arm all weapons, but do not fire until I give the order. Weapons armed and ready, sir. Jake leaned back in his chair and smiled slightly. In a few seconds, the Zephyrian Empire was going to learn a very painful lesson about underestimating humans. Their intelligence reports were accurate as far as they went, but they only told part of the story. The rest of the story was classified at the highest levels of human military command. The Valiant looked like a standard cruiser from the outside, but inside it carried technology that would surprise every alien species in the galaxy. Jake was about to show Warlord Kethvar and his 12 ships exactly what human engineering could accomplish when it really mattered. The first plasma blast lit up space around them as the Zephyrian fleet opened fire. On the bridge of the Zephyrian flagship Bloodclaw, Warlord Kethvar watched his fleet move into perfect attack formation. The 12 warships of his battle group represented some of the most advanced military technology in the galaxy. Each vessel carried enough firepower to destroy a small moon, and together they had never lost a battle. Target locked, Warlord, reported his weapons officer, a scarred veteran named Thekmore. All ships report ready to fire on your command. Kevvar studied the human ship on his main screen. The USS Valiant looked exactly like the intelligence reports had described. It was smaller than his flagship, with a simple hull design that showed no obvious weapons ports. The humans had tried to make their ship look threatening with sharp angles and dark colors, but Kevvar could see through such primitive tricks. "Pathetic," he muttered. "Look how they try to intimidate us with their crude appearance." His tactical officer, Grezkar, pulled up detailed scans of the human vessel. "Energy readings confirm our intelligence reports, Warlord. Their reactor output is barely sufficient to power basic life support and propulsion. Their weapon systems show minimal energy signatures." Kefvar nodded with satisfaction. The Zephyrian Empire had been studying human military capabilities for months, gathering data from every encounter between human ships and other species. The reports all said the same thing. Humans used outdated technology that posed no real threat to advanced civilizations. "What about their shields?" asked Thekmore. "Standard electromagnetic barriers." Grezkar replied, reading from his display. "Maximum deflection capability against energy weapons is rated at 12% of our minimum plasma output. Our concentrated fire will penetrate their defenses in seconds. And their weapons? Kinetic projectile systems. They fire small metal slugs using chemical propellants. Maximum effective range is less than half the distance of our plasma cannons. Even if they could reach us, the projectiles would bounce off our armor like pebbles." Kefvar laughed harshly. The Zephyrian Empire had conquered dozens of species across the galaxy, and most of them had put up better fights than this human ship could manage. Some aliens used advanced energy weapons or exotic matter bombs. Others had powerful shields or incredible speed. But humans seemed to rely on the most primitive technology imaginable. "Sir," his communications officer spoke up, "the human captain is still trying to negotiate. He claims their ship is more dangerous than our reports suggest." "Of course he does," Kefvar replied. "All cowards make empty threats when cornered. It is their nature to lie and bluff rather than face death with honor." On his tactical display, the warlord could see his fleet's positioning was perfect. For ships approached from the front, from behind, and two each from the port and starboard sides. The human ship was completely surrounded with no escape route. When he gave the order to fire, 12 different plasma cannon arrays would strike simultaneously from all directions. "Warlord," Grezkar said, studying his sensors, "I am detecting some unusual readings from the human reactor." "Unusual how?" "The energy signature is different from what our intelligence reports described. It appears to be some kind of fusion system rather than the simple fission reactors humans supposedly use." Kefvar waved dismissively. "Minor differences in technology mean nothing. Even if they have upgraded their power systems, it will not help them survive our attack." "But, sir, if their reactor is more powerful than expected, they might have other capabilities we don't know about." "Impossible," the warlord snapped. "Our spies have observed human ships in battle many times. We know exactly what their weapons can do. We have seen their shields fail under concentrated fire. There are no secrets here. Grezkar, only a desperate human captain trying to save his worthless life." Thekmore checked his weapons display one final time. "All plasma cannons charged and ready, warlord. Targeting computers have locked onto human ships' critical systems. We can disable their engines and life support without destroying the vessel if you wish to capture prisoners." "No prisoners," Kefvar decided. "Humans must learn that challenging the Zephyrian Empire brings only death. Destroy their ship completely." "Understood, sir." The warlord looked around his bridge with pride. His crew were experienced warriors who had served the Empire with distinction for years. They had fought against species with advanced technology and superior numbers, always emerging victorious through superior tactics and firepower. "You know," he said to his officers, "this battle will be remembered as the moment when humans learned their place in the galaxy, when word spreads that a single Zephyrian battle group destroyed their finest warship in seconds. Other human colonies will surrender without fighting." "A glorious victory, warlord," agreed Grezkar. "Yes, and an easy one. Sometimes I almost miss fighting against enemies who could actually threaten us. Remember the Crystalline Collective? Their ships could regenerate damage during battle. Or the Void Hunters with their phase-shifting technology. At least those species made us work for our victories. The humans do seem disappointing, Thekmore admitted. Perhaps we should have brought fewer ships. 6 would have been more than enough. Kethvar studied the tactical display, showing his fleet's overwhelming advantage. 12 heavy warships against 1 small cruiser. Each of his ships outgunned the human vessel by at least 3 to 1. Together, they carried enough firepower to level entire cities. No, he decided. 12 ships sends a stronger message. When the wreckage of this human ship is found by their rescue vessels, they will see what happens when someone defies us. The sight of their destroyed warship will break human morale across the entire sector. Shall we begin the attack, Warlord? Kethvar looked one last time at the human ship on his screen. The USS Valiant hung motionless in space, apparently waiting for the inevitable. He could imagine the terror of the crew as they realized their situation was hopeless. Perhaps their captain was trying to think of some desperate plan to escape, but there was nowhere to run and nothing they could do. All ships. This is Warlord Kethvar. He announced over the fleet communication channel. Open fire. Destroy the human vessel. Across his battle group, weapons officers pressed firing controls. 12 sets of plasma cannons erupted with brilliant energy that lit up the darkness of space. The concentrated firepower of the Zephyrian fleet streaked toward a human ship at incredible speed. Kethvar smiled as he watched the plasma bolts close the distance. In seconds, the primitive human ship would be reduced to glowing debris scattered across space. The Zephyrian Empire would have another easy victory to add to their long list of conquests. He had no idea that he had just made the worst tactical mistake of his military career. Deep in the engineering section of the USS Valiant, Commander Bill Harris watched his instruments with the calm focus of a man who had spent 20 years working with the most advanced technology humanity had ever created. Around him, massive conduits carried power from the ship's fusion reactor to every system on board. The gentle hum of perfectly tuned machinery filled the air. Johnson, check the secondary power coupling on level 3. Bill called to one of his engineers. Martinez, I want a full diagnostic on the shield generators. Stevens, make sure the weapon systems have clean power feeds. His crew moved quickly through the engineering bay, their hands dancing over control panels and monitoring systems. Everyone knew their job perfectly. They had drilled these procedures hundreds of times during their patrol mission, preparing for exactly this kind of situation. Bill looked at his main display, which showed the ship's power distribution in real time. The fusion reactor at the heart of the Valiant was running at optimal efficiency, producing energy levels that would surprise any alien who managed to scan it properly. The reactor used technology that humanity had developed in secret over the past decade, hidden from the prying eyes of other species. Commander Harris to bridge, he said, activating his communication system. All systems are operating at peak efficiency. The reactor is stable and producing full power. We're ready for whatever they want to throw at us. Captain Morrison's voice came back immediately. Thank you, Bill. How are our defensive systems? Shield generators are running perfectly, Captain. We can absorb a lot more punishment than those aliens expect. Bill smiled as he looked at his power readings. And if they want to see our offensive capabilities, the weapon systems have all the energy they need. Excellent. Keep monitoring everything closely. This might get interesting. Bill knew exactly what the captain meant. The USS Valiant carried weapons that no alien species had ever encountered in actual combat. Human military scientists had spent years developing new technologies specifically designed to surprise enemies who thought they understood human capabilities. The ship's shields were the first surprise. From the outside, they looked like standard electromagnetic barriers that any spacefaring civilization might use. But the Valiant shields used a revolutionary new design that could absorb and redirect energy in ways that most aliens thought were impossible. Instead of simply blocking incoming fire, the shields could actually use enemy weapons to strengthen themselves. Bill watched his shield status display as the Zephyrian plasma fire approached. Here we go, people. All hands, prepare for impact. The first plasma bolt struck the Valiant's shields with tremendous force. On any normal ship, such concentrated firepower would have overwhelmed the defensive systems instantly. But the Valiant was not a normal ship. Its shields flickered briefly as they absorbed the incoming energy, then glowed brighter as they converted the alien plasma into additional power for the ship systems. "Holy cow!" whispered one of Bill's junior engineers. "Look at those readings." The shield generators were not just holding against 12 plasma cannon arrays firing simultaneously. They were actually getting stronger as they absorbed more energy. Power levels throughout the ship increased as the shields fed excess energy back into the fusion reactor. "Commander, this is incredible," reported his assistant, Lieutenant Karen Price. "The shields are at 112% efficiency. They're using the alien weapons to boost our own power systems." Bill nodded with satisfaction. Human scientists had theorized that this might happen, but they had never been able to test it against such heavy firepower. The Zephyrians were unknowingly providing the perfect demonstration of humanity's new defensive technology. All systems show green across the board. He reported to the bridge. "Captain, our shields are not just holding. They're getting stronger. The alien plasma fire is actually boosting our power output." Meanwhile, throughout the ship, other crew members made their own preparations. In the navigation section, Lieutenant Dan Cooper monitored the ship's position and prepared evasive maneuver programs. The Valiant could move much faster than its appearance suggested, using advanced propulsion technology that most aliens believed was purely theoretical. At the communication station, Ensign Carol White kept track of all frequencies, ready to jam enemy signals or coordinate with other human ships if any arrived. Her equipment could break most alien encryption systems, giving the Valiant a significant advantage in electronic warfare. But the biggest surprises were in the weapons bays, where Sergeant Lisa Kane supervised the ship's primary armament. The USS Valiant looked like it carried simple kinetic weapons, and in a sense that was true, but the ship's railgun system was unlike anything that had ever been deployed in space combat. "All weapon systems report ready," Lisa announced over the intercom. "Targeting computers have locked onto all 12 enemy vessels. We can engage any or all targets on the captain's command." The railgun arrays hidden inside the Valiant hull were marvels of human engineering. They used magnetic fields to accelerate tungsten projectiles to incredible velocities, creating kinetic weapons with devastating impact force. The projectiles were small and difficult to detect on alien sensors, but when they hit their targets, they delivered energy equivalent to small nuclear weapons. "Lisa, what's the status on our special ammunition?" Bill asked over the comm system. "All projectiles loaded and ready. Commander, we've got enough tungsten penetrators to engage multiple targets simultaneously." Bill smiled. The tungsten projectiles were another human innovation that would surprise their enemies. Unlike traditional kinetic weapons that relied on chemical propellants, the railgun system could fire its ammunition at a significant fraction of light speed. At such velocities, even small projectiles carried enormous destructive force. "Engineering the bridge," Bill reported. "All systems are ready for combat operations. Shields are holding at enhanced efficiency levels, and weapons have full power. We can maintain maximum combat capability for at least 6 hours." "Understood," Captain Morrison replied. "Stand by for my orders." Bill looked around the engineering bay one more time. His crew were working calmly at their stations, monitoring the ship systems and making small adjustments to maintain peak performance. Nobody looked worried about facing 12 enemy warships. They all knew what the Valiant could do when it was time to fight. The Zephyrians had made their biggest mistake when they assumed human ships were primitive and helpless. They had based their intelligence on encounters with older human vessels that carried only basic weapons and standard shields. They had no idea that ships like the Valiant represented a completely new generation of military technology. In a few seconds, Warlord Kethvar and his battle group were going to learn the truth about human military capabilities. Bill almost felt sorry for them. They had come here expecting an easy victory against a defenseless opponent. Instead, they were about to face weapons that could destroy their entire fleet in less than a minute. The engineering displays showed all systems running perfectly as the ship prepared to demonstrate exactly what human technology could accomplish when the stakes were high enough. The real battle was about to begin, and Bill was confident about the outcome. The darkness of space erupted into brilliant light as 12 Zephyrian warships opened fire simultaneously. Streams of superheated plasma raced toward the USS Valiant at incredible speed, each one carrying enough energy to vaporize a small asteroid. The alien weapons created a deadly web of destruction that should have turned the human ship into glowing debris. On the bridge of the Valiant, Captain Jake Morrison watched the incoming fire with calm attention. Around him, his crew worked at their stations with steady professionalism. Nobody showed any sign of fear as death approached them at the speed of light. Impact in 5 seconds. Amy Stevens announced from her tactical station. All hands, brace for impact. Jake said over the ship's communication system. The plasma bolt struck the Valiant's shields with tremendous force. The energy barriers around the ship flared with brilliant light as they absorbed the incoming fire. For a moment, it looked like the human vessel might disappear in a ball of superheated gas and molten metal. But when the light faded, the USS Valiant was still there. Not only had it survived the massive barrage, but its shields were glowing brighter than before. The defensive systems had absorbed the alien plasma and converted it into additional power for the ship systems. Shields holding at 115% efficiency, Amy reported with satisfaction. All systems nominal. No damage to any section of the ship. Jake nodded. The first part of their demonstration was complete. Now the Zephyrians knew that human defensive technology was far more advanced than they had believed, but they had no idea what was coming next. On the bridge of the Bloodclaw, Warlord Kethvar stared at his tactical display in shock. His weapons officer was frantically checking his instruments, unable to believe what the sensors were telling him. Impossible, Kethvar whispered. Our combined firepower should destroy that ship instantly. Warlord, their shields are still active, Thekmore reported. In fact, they appear to be stronger than before we fired. That cannot be correct. Check your instruments. I have checked them 3 times, sir. The human ship absorbed our entire barrage and suffered no damage. Their shield strength has actually increased. Kethvar felt a cold chill run down his spine. In all his years of commanding Zephyrian fleets, he had never encountered defensive technology that could withstand such concentrated firepower. Most enemy shields would have failed after the first few seconds of sustained bombardment. Sir, the human ship is changing position, Grezkar announced. The USS Valiant was indeed moving, but not in the desperate evasive maneuvers that Kethvar expected from a ship under attack. Instead, it turned slowly and deliberately, like a predator choosing its target. The human vessel's movements were smooth and controlled, showing no signs of battle damage or system failures. On the Valiant's bridge, Jake looked at his tactical display. The 12 Zephyrian ships were spread out in their attack formation, exactly where Amy's computers had predicted they would be. Each enemy vessel was now locked in the targeting system, waiting for his order to fire. Lisa, weapon status? He asked. All railgun arrays charged and ready. Captain. Targeting solution confirmed for all 12 enemy ships. We can engage them individually or simultaneously. Amy, what's our shield status? Shields at 118% and still climbing. Sir, the alien plasma fire is feeding more energy into our defensive systems. We could probably absorb another barrage twice as heavy as the first one. Jake smiled. The Zephyrians had just demonstrated exactly why their intelligence about human ships was so dangerously incomplete. They had seen older human vessels with basic shields and simple weapons, but they had never encountered a ship like the Valiant. Captain, Amy continued, the enemy fleet is repositioning for another attack. All 12 ships are charging their weapons again. Let them, Jake replied calmly. Lisa, prepare to return fire. Full spread, all targets. Aye, sir. All weapons ready. Jake pressed a button on his captain's chair. All hands, this is the captain. Prepare for weapons release. We are about to show these aliens what human military technology can really do. The railgun arrays hidden inside the Valiant's hull began to hum with power as magnetic fields built up to incredible strength. The tungsten projectiles loaded in each weapon were small and innocuous looking, but when accelerated to a significant fraction of light speed, they would hit their targets with the force of nuclear weapons. Targeting computers have confirmed locks on all enemy vessels, Lisa reported. Firing solutions are optimal. All weapons ready to fire on your command, Captain. Jake looked at the main view screen, where the 12 Zephyrian ships continued their attack approach. He could imagine Warlord Kethvar on his bridge, probably ordering his weapons officers to increase power and try again. The alien commander had no idea that his ships were about to face the most advanced kinetic weapons system ever deployed. Amy, time the next enemy barrage. 15 seconds, Captain. All enemy ships will fire simultaneously again. Then we have time for a proper demonstration. Jake leaned forward in his chair. Lisa, fire all weapons. Full spread. Firing all weapons, Lisa confirmed. The USS Valiant shuddered slightly as its railgun arrays released their deadly cargo. To external sensors, the tungsten projectiles were almost invisible. They were too small and too fast for most alien detection systems to track effectively. The Zephyrian ships would have only seconds to realize what was happening. On the Bloodclaw, Kreskar was the first to notice the unusual sensor readings. Warlord, I am detecting multiple high-velocity objects launched from a human ship. Missiles? Kethvar asked. Negative, sir. The objects are too small and too fast. They appear to be some kind of kinetic projectiles. Kinetic projectiles? Those primitive weapons cannot penetrate our shields. Sir, the velocity readings are extraordinary. These projectiles are moving at nearly 20% of light speed. Kethvar's eyes widened. No kinetic weapon should be able to achieve such velocities. Chemical propellants could never accelerate projectiles to anywhere near that speed. Only the most advanced magnetic acceleration systems could produce such results. How long until impact? He demanded. 8 seconds, sir. All ships, evasive maneuvers. Maximum acceleration. But it was too late. The 12 Zephyrian warships were spread out in attack formation, unable to change course quickly enough to avoid the incoming projectiles. Their plasma weapons were still charging for another barrage, leaving them vulnerable and exposed. The first tungsten projectile struck a Zephyrian destroyer on the port flank. The small piece of metal, no bigger than a pencil, hit the alien ship's shields at nearly 60,000 kilometers per second. The kinetic energy of the impact was equivalent to a small nuclear explosion. The destroyer's shields collapsed instantly. The projectile punched through the hull like it was made of paper, tearing through multiple decks before exiting out the other side. Secondary explosions rippled through the alien ship as its power systems overloaded and its ammunition stores detonated. In less than 3 seconds, the destroyer broke apart in a brilliant flash of light and expanding gas. The wreckage tumbled through space, glowing with residual heat from the devastating impact. Kethvar watched in horror as the first of his ships died. Impossible. No kinetic weapon can penetrate Zephyrian shields. Sir, 3 more impacts incoming. The next 3 tungsten projectiles found their targets with deadly precision. 2 more destroyers and 1 heavy cruiser exploded in rapid succession, their advanced armor and shields useless against weapons that hit with such incredible force. In the span of 10 seconds, the Zephyrian battle group had lost 4 ships to weapons that their intelligence reports claimed were primitive and ineffective. Kethvar realized with growing terror that everything he thought he knew about human military capabilities was completely wrong. The real battle had only just begun. The explosion of the 4th Zephyrian ship lit up the darkness of space, like a new star being born. Where moments before there had been a proud warship of the Empire, now there was only glowing debris and expanding clouds of superheated gas. The tungsten projectile from a USS Valiant had torn through the alien vessel's defenses as if they were made of tissue paper. On the bridge of the human cruiser, Amy Stevens tracked the remaining 8 enemy ships on her tactical display. The Zephyrian formation was breaking apart as individual commanders tried desperate evasive maneuvers. Some ships were diving toward the nearest planet, hoping to use its gravity well for cover. Others were climbing away from the battle zone, trying to gain distance from the deadly human weapons. For confirmed kills, Amy reported with professional calm. 8 enemy vessels remain active. They're scattering in all directions. Captain Jake Morrison studied the tactical situation. The Zephyrians had finally realized they were facing technology far beyond what their intelligence reports had suggested. Now, they were learning the second lesson about fighting humans. Once you start a battle with them, they don't let you leave until it's finished. Lisa, reload all weapon systems, Jake ordered. Track the fleeing ships and prepare to engage. All railgun arrays reloaded and ready, Captain. The targeting computers are maintaining locks on all remaining enemy vessels. The USS Valiant turned smoothly through space, its advanced propulsion system allowing it to change direction without losing speed. The ship moved like a predator stalking wounded prey, positioning itself for optimal firing angles on the scattered alien fleet. On the bridge of the Bloodclaw, Warlord Kevvar watched his proud battle group disintegrate before his eyes. Four of his finest warships had been destroyed in less than 30 seconds by weapons he hadn't believed could threaten modern starships. His remaining commanders were sending panic messages, begging for permission to retreat. "Sir, the human ship is pursuing us," his navigator reported. "They're matching our course and speed easily." "How is that possible?" "Our intelligence said human ships were slower than ours." "The intelligence was wrong about everything, Warlord," Grezkar said quietly. "Their weapons, their shields, their speed. We've been fighting an enemy we don't understand at all." Kethvar's face twisted with rage and humiliation. The Zephyrian Empire had never retreated from a battle in its entire history. His ancestors would curse his name if he became the first warlord to run from a single enemy ship. But staying to fight meant watching the rest of his fleet get destroyed by weapons that seemed almost magical in their destructive power. "All ships, maintain defensive formation," he ordered. "Concentrate all fire on the human vessel. If we can destroy it, we can still claim victory." But even as he gave the order, Kethvar knew it was hopeless. His plasma cannons had already proven useless against a human ship's shields. In fact, the alien weapons seemed to make the enemy stronger rather than weaker. And now he knew that the human simple-looking kinetic weapons could destroy his ships with single hits. The USS Valiant had closed the optimal firing range. In the ship's weapons bay, Lisa Kane made final adjustments to her targeting systems. The railgun arrays were designed to engage multiple targets simultaneously, and the scattered Zephyrian formation made perfect targets for the advanced computers. "Captain, all remaining enemy ships are within range," she reported. "I have firing solutions on all 8 vessels. Any of them try and surrender?" Jake asked. Amy checked her communications board. "Negative, sir. The flagship is ordering the remaining ships to concentrate their fire on us." Jake nodded. He had given the aliens every chance to end this peacefully. They had chosen to fight, and now they would face the consequences of that decision. "Lisa, you may fire when ready." Firing all weapons. The Valiant's railgun arrays released their second barrage. 8 tungsten projectiles shot out from the human ship at incredible velocity, each one guided by targeting computers that could track multiple fast-moving objects simultaneously. The projectiles were invisible to most sensors and too fast for human eyes to follow. The Zephyrian destroyer Razorclaw was trying to escape by diving toward the system's inner planets when the first projectile found it. The tungsten rod punched through the ship's engine section, causing a catastrophic reactor breach that tore the vessel apart from the inside out. 2 more destroyers died within seconds of each other as railgun projectiles shattered their hulls. The alien ships had been built to withstand plasma cannons and energy weapons, but their armor was useless against kinetic impacts that delivered the force of nuclear explosions. 3 more confirmed kills, Amy announced. 5 enemy ships remaining. The surviving Zephyrian vessels were now in full retreat, abandoning any pretense of maintaining formation or coordinated tactics. Each ship was trying to reach minimum safe distance for a hyperspace jump, hoping to escape before the human weapons could find them. But the USS Valiant was faster than they expected. The human ship's propulsion system used technology that most alien species thought was still theoretical. While the Zephyrians struggled to build up speed with their conventional engines, the Valiant moved through space like it was swimming through water. "Captain, the enemy flagship is trying to signal us," Amy reported. Put on screen. Warlord Kethvar's face appeared on the main view screen. The proud alien warrior looked very different now. His scales had turned a pale color that indicated extreme stress, and his yellow eyes showed an emotion that Zephyrians rarely displayed. Fear. "Human captain," Kevvar said, his voice lacking its earlier arrogance. "I request a ceasefire to discuss terms." "Terms?" Jake replied calmly. "You had 60 seconds to surrender before you opened fire. That offer has expired." "Please, we did not know. Our intelligence was flawed. We underestimated your capabilities." "Yes, you did. The question now is whether any of your ships will survive to report that mistake to your superiors." Kethvar's face showed growing desperation. "We are warriors of the Zephyrian Empire. We demand a right to die with honor in battle." "You can die however you want," Jake said coldly. "But you started this fight in our space, against our ship, threatening our crew. We're going to finish it." The communication ended. Jake looked around his bridge, where his crew continued their work with calm efficiency. Nobody seemed surprised by the aliens' sudden change in attitude. They had all seen this pattern before. Aggressive enemies who became very reasonable once they realized they were losing. "Lisa, status on remaining targets?" "5 ships still active, Captain. The flagship and 4 escorts. They're all trying to reach jump distance. But we're gaining on them. Time to optimal firing range? 30 seconds, sir." Jake settled back in his captain's chair. In half a minute, the USS Valiant would finish what the Zephyrians had started. The alien battle group that had come here expecting an easy victory would be reduced to glowing wreckage scattered across space. The lesson would be clear to any species that might be watching. Humanity might look peaceful and defenseless, but they possessed military technology that could destroy entire fleets when they were threatened. The galaxy was about to learn that underestimating humans was a fatal mistake. The final phase of the 60-second war was about to begin. The remaining 5 Zephyrian warships fled through space like wounded animals running from a predator. Their engines glowed white-hot as desperate commanders pushed their propulsion systems far beyond safe limits. Behind them, the USS Valiant pursued with the relentless patience of a hunter who knew the outcome was inevitable. On the bridge of the human cruiser, Amy Stevens watched the tactical display with professional interest. The enemy ships were spread across thousands of kilometers of space, each one trying a different escape route. Some were diving toward nearby asteroids, hoping to use the rocky debris as cover. Others climbed away from the star system's plane, seeking the open darkness between solar systems. "Enemy ships are at maximum acceleration," Amy reported. "Their engine signatures show severe stress. They're pushing their reactors past recommended safety limits." Captain Jake Morrison nodded. "They know they're running out of time. How long until they can jump to hyperspace?" "At their current acceleration, the closest ship needs another 2 minutes to reach minimum safe distance. The flagship will need almost 3 minutes." "And how long until we're in optimal firing range?" 28 seconds, Captain." Jake looked at the main view screen, where the fleeing alien ships appeared as distant points of light against the star field. In less than half a minute, those points of light will become expanding clouds of debris. The Zephyrian Empire's proud battle group would be completely destroyed. In the weapons bay, Sergeant Lisa Kane made final preparations for the ship's 3rd barrage. The railgun arrays had proven their devastating effectiveness, but she wanted to make sure the remaining shots would finish the job cleanly. Each tungsten projectile represented months of careful manufacturing and millions of credits in advanced materials. "All weapon systems ready for final engagement," she announced over the intercom. "Targeting computers have locked onto all 5 remaining enemy vessels. We can engage them simultaneously or in sequence." Simultaneously, Jake decided, "Let's end this quickly." On the Bloodclaw's bridge, Warlord Kevvar watched his tactical display with growing horror. The human ship was gaining on his fleet despite their desperate acceleration. The alien engines that had once seemed so advanced now appeared primitive compared to whatever propulsion system the humans were using. "Sir, the human vessel will be in weapons range in less than 30 seconds, his navigator reported. "Can we jump to hyperspace before they fire?" "Negative, Warlord. We need at least 90 more seconds to reach minimum safe distance." Kethvar closed his eyes in defeat. In his long military career, he had commanded fleets that conquered entire star systems. He had faced enemies with superior numbers and advanced technology, always finding a way to victory through superior tactics and Zephyrian courage. But this human ship had destroyed 7 of his 12 warships without suffering any damage in return. "Sir," his communications officer said quietly, "should we transmit our battle records to Empire Command? Someone should know what really happened here." The warlord nodded slowly. "Send everything. Complete tactical data on human weapon capabilities, shield technology, and propulsion systems. Make sure they understand that our intelligence reports were completely wrong." "What message should I include with the data?" Kethvar thought for a moment. His personal disgrace mattered less than warning other Zephyrian commanders about the true nature of human military technology. Tell them that humans are not the primitive species we believe them to be. Tell them that any future operations against human space will require a complete reassessment of their capabilities. "Sir, transmission sent." "Good. At least our deaths will serve some purpose." The USS Valiant closed the optimal firing range. On the human ship's bridge, Jake Morrison gave a final order that would end the battle. "Lisa, you may fire when ready." "Firing all weapons," Lisa confirmed. 5 tungsten projectiles shot out from the Valiant's railgun arrays. Each one accelerated to nearly 20% of light speed by magnetic fields powerful enough to bend steel. The targeting computers had calculated perfect firing solutions, accounting for the enemy ship's evasive maneuvers and the vast distances involved. The first projectile struck the Zephyrian escort vessel Night Strike as it tried to hide behind a large asteroid. The tungsten rod punched through both the asteroid and the ship beyond it, creating a spectacular explosion that lit up the debris field like a miniature sun. 2 more escorts died within seconds of each other as railgun projectiles found their targets with deadly precision. The alien ships had been built to withstand conventional weapons, but nothing in the galaxy could survive kinetic impacts that deliver the energy of nuclear weapons. 3 confirmed kills, Amy announced. 2 enemy vessels remaining. The Zephyrian heavy cruiser Bloodspear was climbing away from a battle zone when the 4th projectile caught it. The ship's thick armor, designed to resist plasma cannons and particle beams, offered no protection against a tungsten rod moving at 60,000 kilometers per second. The cruiser broke apart in a brilliant flash of light and expanding debris. 4 confirmed kills. 1 enemy vessel remaining. That last vessel was Warlord Kethvar's flagship, the Bloodclaw. The massive dreadnought was the most heavily armed and armored ship in the Zephyrian fleet, but it was also the slowest. Despite its desperate attempts to reach jump distance, the human ship's final projectile was already on its way. On the Bloodclaw's bridge, Kethvar felt the ship shudder as something struck the hull with tremendous force. Emergency alarms began wailing as damage reports flooded in from all sections. The tungsten projectile had punched through the ship's main armor belt and was tearing through internal compartments like a bullet through paper. "Reactor breach in engineering," his damage control officer shouted. "We're losing containment on the main fusion core. Hull breaches on decks 12 through 18. We're losing atmosphere. Weapon systems offline. Navigation is not responding." Kethvar knew his ship was dying. The human projectile had inflicted more damage in a single hit than most enemy fleets could cause in hours of concentrated bombardment. The Bloodclaw's advanced armor and defensive systems had proven useless against weapons that hit with such incredible force. "All hands, abandon ship," he ordered. "This is Warlord Kethvar. All crew to escape pods immediately." But there was no time. The reactor breach was spreading through the ship's engineering sections, causing secondary explosions that tore through bulkheads and support beams. The Bloodclaw's massive hull began to break apart as its structural integrity failed. The flagship of the Zephyrian battle group exploded in a ball of plasma and twisted metal. The shockwave from the detonation scattered debris across thousands of kilometers, creating a temporary nebula of glowing gas and molten fragments. On the USS Valiant, Amy Stevens confirmed the final kill. "All enemy vessels destroyed. Captain. No survivors detected." Jake looked at his chronometer. From the moment the Zephyrians had opened fire to the destruction of their flagship, exactly 57 seconds had elapsed. An entire alien battle group, consisting of some of the most advanced warships in their sector of the galaxy, had been completely annihilated in less than a minute. "Secure from general quarters," he ordered. "Amy, prepare a detailed battle report for Fleet Command. Lisa, stand down all weapon systems. Aye, sir, both officers replied. The bridge returned to its normal peaceful atmosphere as the crew began post-battle procedures. Nobody seemed surprised by the outcome. They had trained with these weapon systems and knew exactly what they could accomplish against enemies who underestimated human technology. Jake settled back in his captain's chair and looked at the debris field that had once been 12 enemy warships. The Zephyrians had come here expecting an easy victory against a primitive opponent. Instead, they had encountered military technology that surpassed their most advanced systems. The 60-second war was over, and humanity had sent a clear message to any species that might be watching. 3 hours after the battle ended, the USS Valiant continued its patrol to the debris field that had once been 12 Zephyrian warships. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge, watching the final scans of the wreckage as his crew documented everything for their official report. "Amy, what's the status on our battle damage assessment?" he asked. Lieutenant Amy Stevens checked her tactical display one final time. "No damage to any ship systems, Captain. Shields are back to normal power levels. All weapons are fully operational and reloaded. Casualties? None, sir. The crew performed perfectly throughout the engagement." Jake nodded with satisfaction. The entire battle had lasted less than a minute, but it would be remembered throughout the galaxy for years to come. 12 heavily armed alien warships had been destroyed by a single human cruiser without taking any damage in return. Such a decisive victory would send shockwaves through every military command in known space. "Communications, prepare priority transmission to Fleet Command," Jake ordered. "Include complete tactical data on enemy weapon capabilities, our defensive performance, and the effectiveness of our railgun systems. Message prepared and ready for transmission. Captain." "Send it." The detailed battle report raced through space at faster-than-light speed, carrying news of humanity's devastating victory to military commanders throughout human space. Within hours, the information would be analyzed by intelligence officers and strategic planners who had spent years preparing for exactly this kind of encounter. But the human military wasn't the only organization that would receive news of the battle. The Zephyrian Empire had monitoring stations throughout the sector of space, and their sensors had recorded every second of the engagement. Automated systems were already transmitting the tactical data to Zephyrian High Command, along with the final message that Warlord Kethvar had sent before his flagship was destroyed. In the capital city of the Zephyrian homeworld, military leaders gathered in their war room to review the shocking battle reports. Supreme Commander Vashtar, the highest-ranking officer in the Empire's fleet, studied the sensor recordings with growing disbelief. "This cannot be accurate," he said to his staff officers. "No single ship could destroy an entire battle group in 57 seconds. "The data has been verified 3 times, Supreme Commander," his intelligence chief replied. "Our monitoring stations all recorded the same results. Warlord Kethvar's fleet was completely destroyed by a single human cruiser." Vashtar watched the replay of the battle on his tactical display. The human ship's shields had absorbed the combined firepower of 12 plasma cannon arrays without taking any damage. Then the human weapons had struck back with kinetic projectiles that moved at incredible speed and hit with devastating force. "What do we know about these railgun weapons?" he asked. "Very little, sir. Our intelligence reports never mentioned such technology. We believe humans use primitive chemical propellant kinetic weapons that pose no threat to modern starships. Clearly our intelligence was flawed. How many human ships carry these advanced weapons?" "Unknown, Supreme Commander. If this vessel is representative of their current military technology, then our entire assessment of human capabilities is wrong." Vashtar turned away from the display. The Zephyrian Empire had been planning a major offensive against human space, expecting easy victories against what they thought was a primitive species. Now it appeared that humans possessed military technology that surpassed Zephyrian systems in every category. "Cancel all planned operations against human territory," he ordered. "No Zephyrian ship is to enter human space without direct authorization from this command." "Sir, should we attempt to negotiate with the humans?" "Not yet. First we need to understand exactly what we're dealing with. Reassign our best intelligence teams to study human military capabilities. I want to know everything about their ships, their weapons, and their defensive systems. Similar scenes were playing out in command centers throughout the galaxy as news of the battle spread. The Crystalline Collective, a species that had been considering territorial expansion into human space, quietly shelved their invasion plans. The Void Hunters, notorious raiders who preyed on weaker civilizations, decided that human cargo ships might not be such easy targets after all. On the trading world of Nexus Prime, alien merchants who had been planning to pressure human colonies into unfavorable trade agreements suddenly became much more reasonable in their negotiations. Nobody wanted to antagonize a species that could destroy entire fleets with single warships. The battle had lasted less than a minute, but its psychological impact would be felt for decades. Throughout the galaxy, alien species began to revise their assumptions about humanity's place in the cosmic hierarchy. The quiet, peaceful humans who had seemed so harmless now appeared to possess military technology that rivaled the most advanced civilizations. On the USS Valiant, Jake Morrison received a personal message from Fleet Admiral Sarah Collins, the commander of all human military forces in this sector. The message was brief but clear. "Excellent work, Captain. Your crew has reminded the galaxy why humanity deserves respect among the stars." Jake shared the Admiral's message with his crew during their next shift briefing. In the ship's main conference room, his officers gathered to discuss the battle and its implications. "The tactical data we gather will be invaluable for future engagements," Amy Stevens reported. "We now have proof that our new defensive systems can handle concentrated alien firepower. The railgun arrays performed flawlessly," added Lisa Kane. "Targeting accuracy was perfect, and the tungsten projectiles delivered exactly the kinetic energy our engineers predicted." Commander Bill Harris spoke up from the engineering section. All ship systems operated within normal parameters throughout the battle. The fusion reactor handled peak power demands without any stress, and the shield generators actually improved efficiency by absorbing enemy plasma fire. Jake looked around the conference table at his officers. These men and women had just participated in a battle that would be studied in military academies for generations. They had demonstrated that human technology and training could overcome seemingly impossible odds. "The galaxy has learned an important lesson today," he said. "Humanity may prefer peace and diplomacy, but we're prepared to defend ourselves when threatened. Every alien species that witnessed this battle now knows that attacking human ships or human worlds will come at a very high price." "Sir," Amy asked, "what happens if other species decide to test our capabilities?" Jake smiled grimly. "Then they'll learn the same lesson the Zephyrians learned. Underestimating humanity is a mistake that most enemies only make once." The USS Valiant resumed its patrol course, moving through space with the quiet confidence of ship and crew that had proven themselves in combat. Behind them, the expanding debris field served as a permanent reminder of what happened when alien aggressors challenged human military might. In the depths of space, automated beacons left by the Valiant broadcast a simple message in dozens of alien languages. This area was a site of unprovoked aggression against a human vessel. The attacking fleet was completely destroyed. Humanity seeks peace with all species, but will defend itself when threatened. The message would be received by ships from across the galaxy, carrying word of humanity's unexpected strength to every corner of known space. The age of viewing humans as weak newcomers was over. From this day forward, humanity would take its place as one of the galaxy's major military powers. The 60-second war had ended, but its consequences would shape interstellar politics for years to come.